Jake Morgan's hands were covered in grease and rust as he sorted through another pile of scrap metal on Earth's orbital ring. The salvage yard stretched out around him like a graveyard of broken dreams. Old satellite parts, junked shuttles, and twisted metal that nobody wanted anymore. It was honest work, but it barely paid enough to keep his tiny apartment and put food on the table. Some days he wondered if this was all his life would ever be. That's when the message came through. His uncle had died. Jake hadn't seen the old man in 15 years, not since he'd disappeared into deep space chasing some obsession with alien artifacts. Everyone in the family called him crazy. Jake had almost forgotten he existed. The lawyer's hologram delivered the news with the warmth of a tax collector. Jake had inherited everything. No money, no property on Earth, just whatever his uncle had left behind on some forgotten asteroid station. Jake almost deleted the message. Almost. But curiosity got the better of him, and 3 days later he found himself on a transport heading to the outer rim. The station was ancient, held together by patches and prayers. Jake's boots echoed on the metal floors as he walked through empty corridors. When he finally reached his uncle's storage bay, he stopped dead in his tracks. There, taking up the entire space, sat a spacecraft unlike anything he'd ever seen. It wasn't human-made, that much was obvious. Strange symbols covered its hull, geometric patterns that seemed to shift when he looked at them too long. The metal had a weird quality to it, dark but somehow reflective, like oil on water. Next to the ship stood a robot. You could even call it that anymore. The thing looked like it had been through a war and lost. Its shell was dented and scratched, panels missing, one arm hanging at an odd angle. Rust or something like rust covered parts of its frame. Jake figured it was just another piece of junk his uncle had hoarded. Then it moved. The robot's head swiveled toward him with a grinding sound that made Jake's teeth hurt. Lights flickered behind what might have been eyes. It took a step forward and Jake took a step back. The voice that came out was broken, crackling with static like an old radio trying to find a signal. I have been waiting 847 years. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. Waiting for what? The robot tilted its head, studying him. Waiting for you. For one of the bloodline. You must take us home. Home? What are you talking about? And what bloodline? Jake ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of this. Look, I think your circuits are fried. My uncle's dead and I'm just here to sell whatever this stuff is worth. Cannot explain. Not yet. Must travel. Must reach home. The robot's voice kept cutting out, words jumbled and strange. It gave the designation Unit 7 when Jake asked its name, but nothing else made sense. The robot kept repeating the same things over and over like a damaged recording stuck on loop. Jake spent the next 2 days trying to figure out what to do. He ran scans on the ship, but the technology was beyond anything in the databases. Museums would pay good money for this, maybe enough to change his life. He could get out of the salvage yards, start over somewhere better. But first, he needed to make sure the thing could actually fly. He started working on the ship, expecting it to be difficult. Alien technology usually was. But something weird happened. When Jake touched the control panels, they lit up. When he tried to access systems, they opened for him like they recognized his fingerprints. It should have been impossible. These ships had security protocols, biometric locks that took years to crack. Yet here he was, a salvage worker with no special training, and the ship responded to him like an old friend. Unit 7 watched him constantly. Jake would be elbow-deep in wiring, and he'd look up to find those flickering lights focused on him. Not threatening exactly, but intense. Like the robot was studying him, waiting for something. At night, Jake lay in his borrowed bunk and stared at the ceiling. His uncle had kept this ship hidden for decades. Had protected it. Had died without telling anyone what it really was. And now Jake had it, along with a broken robot that claimed it had been waiting almost a millennium for someone from his family. Nothing about this made sense. But Jake couldn't deny the pull he felt toward that ship. It called to something deep in his gut, some instinct he didn't know he had. Maybe his uncle had felt it too. Maybe that's why he'd spent his life protecting these things. Jake made his decision. He'd get the ship running and he'd let Unit 7 guide him to wherever it wanted to go. Maybe he'd find answers. Maybe he'd just find more questions. But at least it would be something bigger than sorting scrap metal until he died. He just hoped he wasn't making the biggest mistake of his life. 3 weeks into his work on the ship, Jake realized something was seriously wrong. Or seriously right. He couldn't decide which. The technology inside this thing defied everything he knew about engineering. He'd found systems that generated power from nothing he could identify. No fuel cells, no reactors, just these crystalline structures that hummed with energy. The navigation computer responded to thoughts as much as touch. Sometimes Jake would think about needing a tool, and a panel would slide open revealing exactly what he needed. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Unit 7 had changed too. The robot moved smoother now, faster. That grinding sound in its joints had disappeared. Its voice came through clearer with each passing day, less static and broken words. Jake caught it doing things when it thought he wasn't looking, running diagnostics, repairing itself, moving with a grace that didn't match its beaten-up appearance. One evening, Jake was trying to figure out the ship's entertainment systems when Unit 7 made a sound that could only be described as a laugh. You were looking in the wrong section. The architects did not believe in passive entertainment. Try the simulation bay instead. Jake spun around. Did you just make a joke? I have always had humor protocols. You simply were not paying attention. There was definitely amusement in that mechanical voice now. And you know what the architects believed in? I thought you couldn't remember anything. Unit 7 went quiet for a moment, its lights dimming. Some things are returning. Being active again, being near you, it helps. After that, they talked more. Unit 7 knew things about human history that weren't in any public database. It described ancient Earth with the kind of detail that only came from actually being there. When Jake asked how that was possible, the robot just said some memories were clearer than others. The breakthrough came during the third week. Jake finally got the engines running. Not just sputtering to life but actually purring like a contented cat. The whole ship seemed to wake up around him, systems connecting and harmonizing. Through the viewports, he could see stars, and for the first time in his life, Jake felt like he could actually reach them. That's when the pirates showed up. The alarm shrieked through the station. Jake pulled up the external cameras and felt his stomach drop. 3 ships, all bristling with weapons, moving into attack position. Pirates were common out here in the rim, preying on isolated stations and salvage operations. Jake had nothing worth stealing except an alien spacecraft that was probably worth more than everything else in the sector combined. Unit 7. We've got company and they don't look friendly. Get to the pilot's chair. Now. All the humor was gone from the robot's voice, replaced by sharp command. Jake ran. He threw himself into the seat, hands hovering over controls he barely understood. Through the viewport, he watched weapons charging on the pirate ships. They were going to blow the whole station apart just to stop him from escaping. I don't know how to fly this thing. Yes, you do. Trust yourself. Trust the ship. The first shots came screaming toward them. Jake's hands moved without thinking, and the ship responded instantly. They launched from the bay just as explosions tore through where they'd been seconds before. The pirates followed, firing everything they had. Jake's mind raced with panic. They were going to die. He was going to die in space in a ship he didn't understand, killed by pirates who wanted to steal. Weapons. The word came out of his mouth, but he didn't remember deciding to speak. The ship heard him anyway. Panels Jake had never noticed before slid open along the hull. Energy built up with a sound like reality tearing. Then light erupted from the ship in beams so bright they left afterimages burned into his vision. The pirates' shields didn't just fail, they evaporated. 2 ships went spinning away, systems completely dead. The third tried to run. Jake let it go. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold onto the controls. How did I do that? Those weapons should have been locked. You said yourself this ship has security protocols. Unit 7 moved beside him, and for the first time, Jake noticed the robot stood straighter, moved with purpose. The battered appearance seemed almost like a mask now, something worn but not real. Jake Morgan, I have not been honest with you. My damage was a disguise. I have been waiting, watching, hiding for centuries. And now the time has come to tell you the truth. Jake's heart pounded. What truth? I was built by the architects, a race that existed millions of years before any current civilization. They seeded this galaxy with intelligent life. Every species you know exists because they designed it that way. And this ship, this vessel you have awakened, was meant for one purpose. What purpose? To be claimed by a human. By your bloodline specifically. Your family carries something in your genetic code, something the architects placed there long ago. That is why the ship responds to you. That is why I have waited. Jake couldn't breathe. Why? Wasp? Why me? Unit 7's lights pulsed in a pattern that might have been sadness. The answer is locked inside my core systems. I cannot access it until we reach specific coordinates in deep space. We must go there, Jake. It is the only way to understand what the architects intended. Jake looked out at the stars, at the infinite darkness between them. His uncle had known something about all this. Had protected these secrets his whole life. had died keeping them safe until someone from the family could take up the burden. Now that someone was Jake. "Show me the coordinates," he said quietly. Unit 7 displayed them on the navigation screen. They pointed toward a region of space marked as unexplored, dangerous, off-limits to commercial traffic. Jake set the course and engaged the engines. Whatever answers waited out there, whatever his uncle had died protecting, Jake was going to find them. Even if it scared him to death. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, and Earth's orbital ring disappeared behind them. Jake had been in deep space for 2 weeks when he realized they weren't alone anymore. Ships appeared on his sensors, keeping their distance but definitely following. At first it was just 1 or 2, lurking at the edge of detection range. Then more came. Within days there were dozens. Unit 7 monitored the communications chatter. "They know what you are flying. Word travels fast in the outer territories." "Great," Jake muttered, adjusting their course to avoid a particularly aggressive-looking cruiser. "So now everyone in the galaxy wants to kill me and take the ship?" "Not kill. Capture. The ship is worth more than entire planetary economies. You have become the most valuable target in known space." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I used to worry about making rent. Now I'm worried about mercenaries and alien warfleets. Really moving up in the world." The attack started small. Single ships trying to disable his engines with ion weapons. Jake evaded them easily. The architect ship moved like it was reading his mind. Which he was starting to suspect it actually was. Then came the coordinated assaults. Groups of treasure hunters working together trying to box him in. Jake fought them off, but each battle left him more exhausted. The scientists were worse than the pirates. They didn't want to destroy the ship, just study it. They sent messages constantly, begging Jake to surrender peacefully, promising him wealth and protection. One university offered him enough money to buy a small moon. Jake ignored them all. Something told him that if he stopped now, he'd never reach those coordinates Unit 7 had shown him. The real trouble came near a dead star system 3 weeks into the journey. Jake's sensors lit up like a holiday display. Warships. Dozens of them, from the Kaurath Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. They weren't asking nicely. "Human vessel, power down your engines immediately. You are in possession of stolen ancient technology. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly." Jake's hands tightened on the controls. "Unit 7, I count 47 warships out there. We can't fight that many." "We can. But you must trust the ship completely. Stop thinking of it as a machine you control. Let it become part of you." "What does that even mean?" The Kaurath opened fire. Energy beams cut through space and Jake threw the ship into evasive maneuvers. But there were too many, firing from too many angles. A shot clipped their shields and the whole ship shuddered. Alarms screamed. Another hit like that and they were done. Jake's vision started to blur. No, not blur, expand. He could suddenly feel the ship around him like it was his own body. The engines weren't machines anymore, they were muscles. The shields weren't energy fields, they were skin. The weapon systems pulsed with his heartbeat. He moved without thinking. The ship twisted through space like a dancer, impossibly fast, impossibly precise. Jake felt every shot before it came, sensed the trajectories like he could see into the future. His consciousness spread through the entire vessel, controlling 1,000 systems at once, and it felt as natural as breathing. The Kaurath warships couldn't touch him. He wove between their fire, struck back with perfect accuracy, disabled engines and weapons without destroying the ships. He wasn't trying to kill anyone, just trying to survive, and the ship understood that. It matched his intentions perfectly. When the battle ended, 20 Kaurath warships drifted dead in space, the rest fleeing at maximum speed. Jake sat in the pilot's chair, gasping for air, his whole body shaking. "What just happened to me?" Unit 7 approached slowly. "You connected. The ship is designed to bond with human neural patterns. Other species have tried to use architect technology for millions of years. All have failed. But humans, you fit. Like a key in a lock." Jake's hands wouldn't stop trembling. "What? Why do we fit?" The robot was quiet for a long moment. When it finally spoke, its voice carried something that sounded almost like emotion. The architects were ancient beyond measure. They explored everything, learned everything, built wonders that would make gods weep. But they grew lonely in their perfection. So they created life across the galaxy, hoping to find something they had lost. What did they lose? The ability to dream. To hope. To look at the impossible and believe it could be real. Unit 7's lights pulsed steadily. They watched humanity from your very beginning. Watched you stumble and fall and get back up. Watched you reach for the stars with nothing but determination and curiosity. You are special, Jake. The only species that dreams of becoming more while never forgetting what you are. The only ones who balance wisdom with wonder. The architects saw in you what they could no longer find in themselves. Jake felt tears on his face. He didn't know if they were from exhaustion or something else. The architects didn't vanish, Unit 7 continued. They transcended, moved beyond physical form. But before they left, they prepared something. A gift. A purpose. All locked in my core, waiting for a human to claim it. That's when Jake noticed the cracks. Fine lines spreading across Unit 7's shell, glowing with inner light. Energy leaked out in thin streams, and the robot moved more carefully like it was in pain. Unit 7, what's happening to you? The secret I carry is too large for this shell. It is breaking me apart. We must reach the coordinates soon, Jake. Before I fail completely. Before the message is lost. Jake pushed the ship faster, racing toward coordinates that promised answers and terrified him in equal measure. Behind them, more ships gathered, and ahead lay unknown space. But Jake didn't hesitate. His uncle had died protecting these secrets. Unit 7 was dying to deliver them. And somewhere deep in his genetic code, written by beings who existed before recorded history, was a purpose waiting to be fulfilled. He just hoped he was strong enough to see it through. The coordinates led them to the edge of everything Jake knew. Out here, space itself looked different. Darker. Colder. Like the universe had forgotten this place existed. Then he saw it. The structure hung in the void, orbiting a star that was dying slowly, its light flickering red and weak. But the structure itself was massive beyond comprehension. It stretched for miles in every direction, made of the same strange metal as Jake's ship. Towers and platforms connected by bridges that seemed to float without support. Lights pulsed deep within it, like a heartbeat that had been beating for millions of years. Is that it? Jake whispered. That is home. Unit 7's voice was barely a whisper now. The cracks in its shell had spread and light poured out from inside. The robot moved with obvious pain, each step careful and measured. You're falling apart. I will last long enough. Dock at the central platform. We must hurry. Jake guided the ship in, his hands steady despite the fear churning in his gut. The docking bay opened for them automatically, recognizing the ship like it had been waiting all this time. As they landed, Jake noticed something strange. There were other bays here, hundreds of them, all empty. Whatever this place had been built for, they were the first to arrive in a very long time. Unit 7 led him through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The facility was pristine, untouched by time or decay. Every surface gleamed. Every system still functioned perfectly. It felt like walking through a tomb, but one where the dead might wake up at any moment. They reached a central chamber and Jake stopped breathing. The room was enormous, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center stood a platform, and on that platform sat something that looked like a weapon, but bigger and stranger than anything Jake had ever imagined. Energy crackled around it, contained by fields he couldn't begin to understand. Unit 7, what is that thing? The robot didn't answer. Instead, its shell split completely open with a sound like breaking glass. Jake jumped back, raising his arms to shield his face. Light poured out so bright it hurt to look at. And within that light, he saw something that shouldn't exist. A crystalline structure, geometric and perfect, pulsing with colors that didn't have names. A voice filled the chamber. Not mechanical like Unit 7's had been. This was something else. Ancient. Powerful. Set. Hello, Jake Morgan. I have waited so long to speak with one of you. Jake's legs nearly gave out. What are you? I am the last of the architects. Or rather, I am an echo of what we once were. My consciousness has been preserved in this core, waiting. Always waiting. The crystalline structure floated free from Unit 7's broken shell, hovering in the air. The robot collapsed to the ground, its purpose fulfilled, its body finally giving out after centuries of waiting. You need to explain what's happening. Right now. Humanity was our final creation, Jake. Our greatest work. We seeded life across this galaxy, hoping to find something we had lost. The capacity for growth, for hope, for compassion combined with strength. Most species we created became stagnant. Content with what they were. Others grew aggressive, conquering and destroying. None achieved balance. None except you. Jake's mind raced. So what, we're some kind of experiment? You are our children. Our hope for what the galaxy could become. We designed you to be shepherds, Jake. To unite the fractured civilizations, to guide them toward something better. But we needed to know if our faith was justified. The architect's consciousness pulsed, and images filled Jake's mind. He saw the galaxy as it was now, thousands of species all separated, many at war, progress grinding to a halt. He saw suffering and waste and potential dying unused. That weapon you see before you is called the Unmaker. It can reset the galaxy, return everything to the beginning, give life another chance to evolve differently. We built it as a failsafe in case our experiment failed. Jake's blood ran cold. You want me to destroy the entire galaxy? No. I want you to choose. Destroy the Unmaker and preserve the galaxy as it is, accepting that things may never change. Or activate it and give existence another chance. This is the test, Jake. This is why I have waited. I can't make that choice. I'm just a salvage worker. I'm nobody. You are not nobody. The voice softened. 300 years ago, one of your ancestors encountered a dying architect scout. Our last physical form in this galaxy. Your ancestor found the scout crashed on a remote world. The scout carried technology that could have made your ancestor wealthy beyond measure. But instead of taking it, your ancestor stayed. Gave water. Gave comfort. Showed mercy to a dying alien when no one would have known or cared. That single act of compassion, that choice to value life over profit, marked your bloodline as worthy. Jake felt tears streaming down his face. He thought of his uncle, who had spent his whole life protecting secrets he didn't fully understand. Who had died alone, keeping faith with a promise made generations ago. Before Jake could speak, alarms blared throughout the facility. His ship's systems connected to his mind, showing him what was happening outside. Ships. Dozens of them. The Kaurith Empire had found them, along with mercenary fleets and treasure hunters. They were all converging on the facility, weapons charging. They will tear this place apart to claim the Unmaker, the architect said. You have minutes, Jake Morgan. Choose. Destroy the weapon and doom the galaxy to slow stagnation. Activate it and give existence another chance at the cost of trillions of lives. Or surrender and let these warring factions claim power that will destroy them all. Jake looked at the weapon. Looked at the broken shell of Unit 7. Looked at his own trembling hands. Outside, the first shots began to impact the facility's shields. The battle had begun and he was out of time. Jake stared at the Unmaker, his mind racing as explosions shook the facility. The attacking fleets were tearing through the outer shields. He had maybe 2 minutes before they breached the inner chambers. 2 minutes to make a choice that would define the fate of trillions of lives. Destroy the weapon or fire it. Those were his options. But something felt wrong about both choices. Then it hit him like lightning. The architects were wrong. For all their ancient wisdom and power, they'd made the same mistake every powerful civilization made. They thought in absolutes. Victory or defeat. Success or failure. Destroy or rebuild. They'd given him a test with only 2 answers, but Jake had spent his whole life finding third options. When you couldn't pay rent, you figured out creative solutions. When salvage yards didn't have the parts you needed, you made do with what you had. Humans didn't follow the rules when the rules didn't make sense. They changed them. How do I access the Unmaker's systems? Jake asked, his voice steady now. What are you doing? The architect's consciousness pulsed with confusion. Something you never considered. Jake ran to the control panels, his hands flying over surfaces that responded to his touch. The ship had taught him how to interface with architect technology, and now he used every bit of that knowledge. You're giving me a choice between preserving a broken galaxy or destroying everything. But there's a third option nobody's talking about. He dove into the weapons programming, his mind linking with systems that had been dormant for millions of years. The Unmaker wasn't just a weapon. It was a broadcasting device, a communications hub, a repository of all architect knowledge. It had the power to reach every corner of the galaxy simultaneously. Jake Morgan, what are you attempting? I'm not destroying the weapon and I'm not firing it. I'm repurposing it. His fingers worked frantically as another explosion rocked the facility. You wanted humanity to be shepherds? Fine. But we don't lead by threatening people with destruction. We lead by telling the truth. Jake reconfigured the Unmaker's core systems, changing it from a weapon of annihilation into the largest communications array in galactic history. Then he loaded every piece of information the architect had shared with him. The truth about where all galactic life came from. The purpose behind humanity's creation. The test they'd been given. Everything. You cannot. This information could cause chaos. Or it could cause change. Jake hit the final command. Time to find out which. The Unmaker pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of energy that swept across the entire galaxy at faster than light speed. Every communications device, every computer system, Every ship's database received the same message simultaneously. The complete and unfiltered truth about the architects, their experiment and humanity's designated role. But Jake didn't stop there. He took the biggest gamble of his life. He opened every file on architect technology. Power generation, faster-than-light travel, medical advances, manufacturing techniques. Centuries worth of progress locked away in this facility. And he broadcast all of it freely to every civilization in the galaxy. No restrictions. No patents. No control. You are giving them everything. The architect's voice filled with something that might have been panic. They could destroy themselves with this knowledge. Or they could build something amazing. Jake stepped back from the controls, watching the data stream out into the universe. You spent millions of years trying to control the outcome. Maybe it's time to trust that you built something good and let it grow on its own. The explosions outside stopped. Jake checked his sensors. The attacking fleets had gone silent. Every single ship, from massive warships to tiny scout vessels, had received the broadcast. They all knew the truth now. They all had the technology. They all faced the same choice. Would they keep fighting over scraps, or would they work together with unlimited potential? Minutes passed in silence. Then one ship powered down its weapons. Then another. Then 10 more. The Kaurath warships, the ones that had been firing massive cannons just moments ago, sent a message on open channels. We acknowledge the truth. We request negotiations. Other voices joined in. Species that had been enemies for generations reaching out to each other. Jake had forced them all to show their true nature. Those who continued attacking would reveal themselves as conquerors and tyrants. Those who stood down and reached out showed they could be reasoned with. It was working. It was actually working. The architect's consciousness floated before Jake, pulsing with colors he'd never seen before. In all our planning, across all our simulations, we never considered this approach. Radical transparency. Absolute trust. You have gambled everything on the hope that shared knowledge will unite rather than divide. That's what humans do, Jake said quietly. We hope when logic says we shouldn't. We trust when experience tells us not to. We believe people can be better than they are. The experiment is concluded. Humanity has proven worthy beyond our expectations. The consciousness expanded, filling the chamber with light. We leave you our final gift. The Unmaker transformed one last time. Its weapon systems dissolved, replaced by something new. A network that would allow instantaneous communication across the entire galaxy. No more isolation. No more cultures developing in ignorance of each other. Everyone connected, everyone able to share and learn and grow together. It is done, the architect said, and Jake heard satisfaction in that ancient voice. We may finally rest. Jake ran to where Unit 7 had fallen. The robot's shell was dark now, systems failing. But its lights flickered one last time as Jake knelt beside it. Unit 7? Are you still there? Still here? The voice was faint, barely a whisper. You did it, Jake. You chose hope. You were always the ones who would choose hope. Don't go. We can repair you. The architect technology. My purpose is complete. I waited 847 years to deliver my message. To witness humanity's choice. The lights dimmed further. Shepherd well, Jake Morgan. The galaxy needs you now. I can't do this alone. You won't be alone. You never were. The lights went out completely and Unit 7 was still. Jake sat there for a long time, holding the broken robot, feeling the weight of what came next settling onto his shoulders. 3 months later, Jake Morgan guided his ship toward Earth orbit. But he wasn't alone anymore. His crew was a mix of humans and aliens, representatives from a dozen species who'd chosen cooperation over conflict. They were building something new together. An alliance based on shared knowledge and mutual respect. The galaxy still had problems. Old hatreds didn't disappear overnight. But now there was hope. Now there was possibility. And humanity, imperfect and stubborn and endlessly optimistic, was helping guide the way forward. Jake thought about his uncle sometimes, wondered if the old man had known how all this would end. Probably not. But he'd kept faith anyway, protected secrets he didn't understand, trusted that someone from his family would do the right thing when the moment came. Jake had been a nobody. A salvage worker barely making rent. Now he was humanity's first shepherd, and the galaxy would never be the same. Not because humans were perfect but because they dared to believe everyone else could be better too. And somehow that made all the difference.